my screen? Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. I appreciate those of you that saw that we had to reschedule. It was me, the cause. I was sick and assumed you guys did not want to hear me sniffling every 2 seconds. But things are better now, so I appreciate you coming back this week for me here. I don't know if all of you were able to listen to my last one, but I am excited about doing this one as well. My intro is going to be a little bit the same, and for those of you that have already been here, you'll see it, but I want to be able to show you some of the images that represent me. I know somebody mentioned that they thought Brian had a baby, but it was actually me. My husband, Dan, and I had a baby. This is a maternity shot of me that my husband took. My baby is now 11 months old. This is just the most recent headshot that I have that we have taken, so that's why I have that. And there's my little daughter, Lily, that I took a couple weeks ago. You can tell she's thoroughly excited that her mom and dad are torturing her in the bathtub with a camera, but she loves it. Here's a couple just random little images that I've shot of kids and babies. Brian mostly introed me pretty well, but a little bit more. I've been doing this about 14 years. We are in Portland. I do have an actual studio space that clients come to. In fact, this image was taken in the parking lot of my studio. Lots of good areas around. These are all done in my studio. You've probably seen some of my work in On One's ads. They use them as demos, but here is a few more. Couple more. I think that's the last one. And then I know I'll put it down at the end, but just in case you guys want to see, you can go ahead and visit my blog, and it's just going to be blissstudio.net/blog or blissstudioblog.net. These are a couple images here of my studio, just for fun, that you can see. We recently redesigned it and did a bunch of new work, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about style, and that's kind of why I wanted to show this too. We'll show you a little bit about me and my style and what we have in the studio. This is all a chalkboard wall. I love this. The chalkboard's on the wall, or on the doors. We redid all of the doors. We painted the chalkboard wall. That's been one of the funnest parts of the remodel. This is my sales room, or as you saw on that chalkboard, it actually says Design Studio. And this is where I do all of my sales sessions. We have a projector. You'll see a little projector up here on the right, up above, and we have a big screen that's on the left on the wall, which is not actually going to show in the photo. And then there's just a couple more in the bathroom. So today I want to talk mostly about style, and then we're going to go into perfect effects, and we're going to show how I use some of the filters and effects that they offer to kind of define my style. You hear the word style, and I think of it being such an easy word. It's style. How hard is that? But honestly, I think it is quite a hard word to get around. Everyone has a style of photography, whether we know it or not, or whether we can recognize our own style. And honestly, I think recognizing our own style is one of the hardest things. It's much easier, even for me, as long as I've been doing this, to see somebody else's style, to see an image and say, I know that that's so-and-so's image without even seeing their signature or their mark on that image. A perfect example of that is JB Sully, if you guys know who that is. He's a wonderful photographer and friend. He's photographed me and my family as well. But I can see an image of his and know right off the bat that it's his image. He has a very defined style. It's a little bit more, I want to say, vintage and grungy, and the filters and effects that he adds to his images really show who he is, as well as his composition. I mean, he's got a nice ad in one of the newer magazines, Photoshop magazine?
I think so.
I think it's Photoshop. He's got the cover one. But immediately I knew it was his. And my husband said, oh, he doesn't have anything in there. And I'm flipping through the pages, and I found his whole layout, and I knew that they were his images. It took me a while to really find my style. And you may be able to look through my stuff and notice right away, but me looking through it, I'm like, I don't know. I like everything. I like different things. It was hard to say this is what I like until I started really going through my work and going through the images, and I would see little things. Like, this is a really good example. Every time I would do a baby or a kid shoot, I would seem to do a horizontal face shot, and over and over and over again. And I would see this in all of my jobs, and I said that obviously is something that I love and a style that is me. I like those tight, intimate faces. I do have a little bit more of a vintage style in my babies and kids. Not always. I mean, if the image needs to be more... Are we having a problem? You're giving me a look.
Can you bring up... Just 1 second. I see some reports of some echoing, so if you just want to bring up the...
Sorry about that.
No worries. Just bear with us for a second, everyone. Bring up the GoToWebinar control panel. There we go. And let's...
I think I'm turned
yeah,
off.
You're good. You're good to go. Yeah. Excuse me.
I'm all turned off. Am I not?
Yeah, no, okay, we're fine. Please, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay. Sorry about that. My ears are still a little plugged, so I'm kind of echoing in my own head. So sorry about that, but I don't know. Okay, now you interrupted me.
I know.
I totally lost my train of thought now. That's okay. Back to style. We're just talking more about style, and I know somebody asked about who JB was, so it's JB Sully. I think it's JB Sully Photography.
Yeah, I'll just...
if you can put it is. And he was just one example of a photographer that stands out to me. It's somebody that I love his work, and just know right off what his style is. So back to mine a little bit more. Finding my style did take some time, and I know that we all evolve. Our creativity changes. We're inspired by different things, and you don't want to stay stagnant in what you're in. I understand that too, but I still think it's important to find a style and stick with it. It's kind of what helps set us apart from photographers, and it's what makes us who we are as artists. I know it's hard these days to stand out among a million photographers. I mean, everybody has one. We all have or they all have a neighbor or a friend, or they are a photographer. I mean, there's a million photographers out there. And looking at it, how do we pull through that and make a living? That's probably the million-dollar question there, and I don't think any of us has a perfect answer, but I do know that being able to stick to what you love and be able to show what you love will help set you apart. Over the years, I've learned that you can't be everything and you can't be the best at everything. I've learned that I want to focus all of my energy on my kids and babies, and I do a little bit of families. I do a few seniors, but we pretty much stopped doing weddings. I will take a couple weddings a year if they're the perfect wedding and the perfect fit for me, and I'm very particular about that. But all my energy, all of my marketing pieces, everything that I show, all pushes towards kids and babies, and I hope that people walking in know that is my love and that is what I shoot.
Let me jump in there. I have a quick question based on what you were just saying, Whitney. So obviously weddings you're really picky about. What about, what is there a rate of clients that you say no to? Like, would you say that, do you take a majority of the people, for instance, babies that come here, or, are you more selective even with babies as you are with weddings?
I think a little bit of both. I don't know if I've recently told anybody no per se, but I'm not afraid to tell somebody no. Before I do any session, I will have the client come in and meet me no matter what. And I think during that pre-consultation, I know and they know whether I'm a good fit for them. So they see what I have to offer. My prices are not cheap, so if they are just looking for a disc or if they're looking for somebody just to give them some 5x7s, I'm not going to be the right studio. Mine is more finished product, wall portraits. Albums is a big thing. People do come to me for their finished albums. It just kind of depends. And I have a good feeling. I met with somebody a couple weeks ago. They came in and I loved them, and I knew right away that they were going to be a good fit for my studio. She wanted to go home and talk to her husband, but within a day I had a call back and they had booked their session. And I've had other people walk out and say, I've said I don't care to work with them, and they don't end up usually calling back, so it's not a huge problem. I think you can kind of feel, but I also think you need to not be afraid to tell people no. So let's keep going a little bit more. Part of our style, I think, is in our finished product, in the post-production. Being with digital photography, it's obviously opened a million doors for us and a million opportunities for somebody to jazz up your images, make them pop, add little effects to them, and help set yourself apart from somebody else. So this is why we're here today, as I want to talk a little bit about perfect effects. I want to make sure we don't have any other questions about that before I go on.
Well,
okay?
Excuse me. Wayne was wondering, how do you tell someone that you don't want to do their shoot?
Very carefully. You could tell them you're already booked. No. I think being honest with somebody and just telling them that they are probably not a good fit for your studio and that you don't want them to have that disadvantage either. Here's another thing, even something about style. I've had a client come to me and say, I would like to do flowers with my belly, and can you make the flowers in color and make the rest in black and white? okay, no offense, if that's your style, great, but I can't stand it. It's just not who I am. It's what I did 10 years ago. I do not like something in color with the rest in black and white. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. Don't go there. But I pretty much told the client, yes, I can do it, but I'm not going to do it. And I didn't. And they still hired me. I did a beautiful maternity session, and I did my take on what she wanted. And I wish I had that image now that I'm saying it, but it was more of a vintage filtered. It still had a cool effect, but it wasn't the red roses with her in black and white. And she bought it. She loved it. So she obviously hired me for a reason, and she wanted me to do my job. I'm a full believer in not letting those clients turn you into someone that you're not. So you need to stick by who you are as a client or as a artist. I mean, it's just as important for you to do a job right for that client. You want them to be happy, I guess. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And I think, and people know that too. I mean, if you tell them, hey, you know, there's a million studios, you probably need to find somebody else. I think that that's okay. And I think that you should not put yourself out there to fail, and that's what you're going to do. If you get to take on this client who doesn't really fit in with your style and your studio, you're asking for failure.
Cool.
Okay. That was actually a good one that I had there. I forgot about that image. So let's talk about Perfect Effects a little bit, and that since I'm a photo tools user, and that is where I started until Perfect Effects. I'm going to say photo effects over and over again. I'm going to owe my husband $5 every time I say it. I'm a photo tools user, so I keep saying photo effects, but it's Perfect Effects. Once I got Perfect Effects, I actually want to look at it. Let's open it up and look at it. It'll be easier for me to talk about it. So let's open up an image. And let's go ahead and open this up into Perfect Effects. I think I should get $10 every time I say it right. Is that okay?
That's a good deal.
I think my husband will appreciate that. Okay, I will be perfectly honest. When I have new software, it irritates me. Or when people upgrade and you have to relearn the software, it is incredibly frustrating for me. I resist change. I will sit there and tell my husband I don't want to learn it. I'm not worried about it. Please, I don't want to see it. And he'll be so excited to show me this new product that I don't even want to give it 2 seconds. When it's forced upon me, I don't do so well. But when I actually took the time to open this up, I was pretty excited. If you used Photo Tools in the past, and I don't know how many people of you actually used Photo Tools, one of the things that it had was the filters would have a preview next to it that would be of an image, a before and after, but it was not your image. So when I opened up this program and saw all of these thumbnails across the bottom with the filters using my image, I was instantly hooked. That's all I needed. I wanted to be able to see and scroll through and know right away which image or which effects that I liked. That was the first thing that I noticed about it. And one other thing, just I would highly suggest if you have this or if you want to download it, just spend an afternoon going through it. Spend an afternoon picking the effects, making a list of things that you like. I actually have a list at the end if we want to go through of some that are my favorites, and I have taken the time to do this because not all of these are going to work. The babies and kids, it's a little bit harder to pick through. Movie looks, there's a bunch of these that are a little bit much for babies and kids, but if you're doing a high school senior or a fashion shoot, there's some awesome effects in here that will work. They just don't work as well for the kids. Did you have a question?
Nope.
You look antsy.
Nope.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, just making sure. So take the time, make a list, kind of go through these and find the ones that you like. You can add multiple effects, and you'll see over here on the right-hand side, we can stack the different effects just like you would in a layers palette in Photoshop. Most of the things that you're going to do in here are going to be pretty similar to Photoshop. You have your magnifying glass to pull it closer. You have your little hand. If you double-click on your hand, you can pull it back and look at it full screen. You can do masking in here. You can paint it in and out. You can change the viewing mode. So over here you've got toggle preview modes if you want to see your before and afters. You can do it this way. So I wasn't really taught this. I pretty much just sat and played with it. It was fairly easy to use. If you're familiar with Photoshop, I don't think you'd have any problems doing this. So let's play with this image just a little bit because that'll help show. One of the effects that I really like is in the black and white category. We're going to go all the way over to the warm gray. So if you double click on that, it'll go ahead and add that filter. And you'll see it over here, the warm gray, and then it puts another empty one on top of it. This means we can go ahead and stack another one on. One problem that I tend to run into, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but just in case, is back from Photo Tools, I will just click once and it will pull it up. Nope, hold on. Let's actually delete that one. Now click once. Was I just on the wrong layer? Sorry. And it will stick it there, but it doesn't actually add it to your stack. And that's, I'll be doing this, get it all set how I want. I'll go to the next one and I will click on it and away my filter went. So it's important that you click on the add or double click it to start. So it's kind of up to you. If you just want to see what it looks like, sometimes I'll just kind of click on once because I kind of want to see it bigger than the little thumbnail, and I'll flip through them until I find the one that I want. Just make sure that you click add. So I'm going to go back to that black and white one. And we'll go ahead and add the warm gray, and you'll see that it added it here. So now if we want to make any changes to that, you need to make sure that you have that layer highlighted, and you can go down to the strength, or I call it the opacity, so it's similar to Photoshop, and you can go ahead and drag that and pull that back just a little bit. It's a little heavy for me, so I'm going to pull it in a little bit. And then we will click on that top layer, and we're ready to add another effect to this one. I think I skipped further ahead, but let's keep going. So in the detail, I'm going to go ahead and add the portrait sharpener. So it's a little bit soft. I want it just a little bit more tack sharp, which you can see that is a little bit too much. So I am going to click back on that layer, and we're going to pull that back just a touch. I do want it sharp, but I don't want that baby to be overly sharp. And then we'll go back to that empty layer, and let's add just a couple more. In the vignettes, yes, vignettes. I have two that I love in this one. There's a grunge vignette dark that I use quite a bit, which isn't going to work for this image, and then the grunge vignette light is probably one of my favorite ones that I use for my babies. So I'm going to click once on that one so that it stays there, and I'm going to pull it back just a touch. And then we'll go ahead and add that one. And then my final one is this subtle vignette. We'll just pull the subtle, and it just darkens it up a little bit, and my image is done. This one, obviously, I need to retouch the light switches up here that you see, and I would do that after the fact or before I pulled it in. It's done on the original or the final one, but I didn't do it before we did this. But I would do a little bit of retouching on this before I pulled it in, probably.
Yeah, you know, you could do it. We could just try it out. But, well, first, if you can hit Command-P, so what I wanted to do is show everyone the before and the after. And just do it again so you can see kind of what Whitney did here. And I've always kind of tried to find a good application of the grunge vignette light effect because I always think it's awesome, but I never really have good luck with it. But it seems to fit perfectly here. It's my favorite. I will mask it out sometimes of the skin, depending. For this image, it actually works. That's the look I wanted. That's what I was hoping for. If you do have a baby's face, and I have another little boy that we'll do where I'll use the darker grunge one, and I will actually mask out his face, so it's not all over his skin. Yeah, and would you do me a favor and just hit apply for a second? Because there, you know, the few people brought up the wall outlets. So. Okay, so you're in Photoshop. I thought you left it in Suite. So here, I mean, you can just use, you know, a patch tool or the healing. Yeah, I'm not gonna show Photoshop. But here's the finished print. So yeah, you can I did already do all of that. And there was a little bit on the ground. I had little pieces of paper or something on the ground that I retouched all that out. And honestly, I did that first. So I did take out the tool distractions I didn't want in there. Then I pulled it into Perfect Effects and did the effects that I wanted. Right. And then Charles just asked, in terms of saving a stack, you would basically save that as a preset, Charles. You're correct. Yeah, and we probably should have done it before we pulled it out. I can do it actually really, really fast. Yeah. I do have presets saved. And I have my baby black and white is this one. I've got a baby soft. And I do save those as presets, which makes it a lot faster. They're ones that I use all the time, the same stack. You can make changes to it if you want. So if you make a preset and you want to go back in and it's still not quite right, you can make those changes to it. There's also something cool here, Whitney, if you delete that layer right there and go back into Perfect Effects for a second, I'll show you something pretty cool for everyone out there. So what Whitney's doing is she's going back into Perfect Effects, And let's just say, for instance, okay, let's say Whitney was just playing around and she got to this look and she forgot to save as a preset. If you go to the presets category all the way to the right.
Last used.
The last, exactly. We'll go to presets and then recently used, and then just click on number 1 or double click on that folder.
Working on it.
There you go.
Sorry.
No worries. So if you click on that, and then you click on expand on that layer, or if you click back on the, you'll know that you've applied a preset because the layer name will be in italics. So if you click on recently used 1 and then click on the expand button, you'll see the actual layers that Whitney used at the strengths that she used them at, and now you can go to the preset menu and save it. So.
And you see how cool this is? All the thumbnails of your recently used are attached to your image.
Yep.
That makes me happy.
Yeah, that was something a big request that we had for Photo Tools users. So.
Yeah, like I said, that's all I did was open up this program one day and went done.
Yep.
So it was the same effects that I wanted that were in here, but the fact that my little thumbnails were down there made this 1,000 times faster for me to be able to pick stuff. So you can go up here and just go to hit Save Preset, and we'll just call this Black and White Baby. And if you want to put the other information, you can, but we'll hit Create. And then in your presets folder, I have a folder that's called Babies. And you'll have Black and White Soft Baby, Black and White Babies. I'd already actually created one already. So it'll just show up right in there. You'll still see the effect on your image, so you know if it's not going to work. Okay. Okay, any more on that one? Or do you want me to do a different image?
A different image. Cynthia asked about masking out an effect from a face, and I know you're going to do it in another image, so we'll just do it.
So let's do this little guy. So this is pretty simple. There's the after, just so you guys can see, and there's the before. There's really nothing wrong with the before. It's a cute picture of a cute little boy. But just adding this extra little bit of grunge to it, I sharpened his eyes a little bit. It just makes it pop a little bit more. This took just a couple seconds to do, but still makes it worth the finish. So let's open this little guy up to Perfect Portrait. I want $10 every time I say it right. Uh-oh, did I slip?
I don't know. Where are we in here? Oh, you went to mask.
I did slip. Well, I clicked it, but then the mouse had a mind of its own.
Yeah, hit cancel. I'll keep clicking through here. So what?
Okay.
Whitney's giving you actually a preview of a version of Perfect Photo Suite 6 that we are releasing next week.
Oh, apparently I have something I didn't even know I had.
Yeah.
Thank you, husband.
Yeah, I assumed Dan installed it on your computer.
I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, we have a version of Perfect Photo Suite 6.1 coming out next week. I guess it'll be a nice, for you webinar attendees, you get kind of a early knowledge of it, but it's a massive upgrade in terms of performance. So. Okay,
so let's take a look a little bit at little Monty here. My little favorites on his, we're going to go back to the vintage category. So the vintage category is probably my favorite. That's going to be the one that I have the most and that I prefer to use with my babies and kids. Dirty Bird is the one that I used on this one. So I'm just clicking once instead of double clicking because I know that I'm going to make some changes to this one. So I clicked once, we've got it in our palette here, and you can see on this one where his face, that's not going to work. So we are going to grab our little paint tool, and very similar for Photoshop users, you can toggle with your brackets just the same to make your brush size bigger or smaller. And we will go ahead and paint right on his face. I'm using my laptop mouse, so it's not going to be the most perfect job here, but you guys get the picture. Can everybody still hear me okay? I think I'm still echoing in my head.
No, you're fine.
Okay,
yeah,
loud enough. I'm trying to talk slower. A bunch of people complain that I talk too fast, so I'm trying to make it through here.
When has it been a problem that you weren't too loud? So.
Shh. Okay. So okay, sorry about that. That is not a problem. So there you go. They're pretty simple. The only thing that I would want to do now is go ahead and sharpen his eyes up a little bit. Just to point out too, you can see your mask over here, and this looks like this must be the new version because this was not on my version before. But you can see your little mask, so we can see where we painted on the right, which is fabulous. Don't forget to hit the add before we move on so that we get an empty layer to add another filter on. And I am going to sharpen this little guy's eyes, so I'm going to show you how to do a reverse mask. So we're going to go to Detail, and I'm going to click on once on Portrait Sharpen. And we're going to go up to Masking and go ahead and invert mask, and just Command I works as well, doesn't it? Same as Photoshop?
I believe so.
Command I or Control I, I think probably on a PC. So now it's disappeared, and I'm going to go ahead and paint in just his eyes, but let's pull this in a little bit closer. And you can see your mask over on the right just turned black, so you know that you're doing a reverse mask.
That's actually a new feature in the upcoming Perfect Effects for Suite 6.1.
Love it.
People always wanted to see their masks.
That's just, I don't think it was on the version that I
was
have.
not.
So, okay.
Nope.
I got all the latest, I think, gadgets last night, so before this webinar. So let's just paint his little eyes in just to sharpen them up just a little bit. I don't know how well you guys can see the little detail on here.
No, it looks, I mean, night and day. The eyes are just a little bit snappier.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and double click on the hand just like we would in Photoshop so we can see it. Did I make it mad? Uh-oh. No, there we go. There we go. My fingers move too fast, I think, sometimes. So here we are. So this image is pretty much done. You can see your mask on the other side. I probably wouldn't do anything else to this image. Super simple again. If I probably wouldn't save this one as a preset just because it was only 2 steps and I did mask out on this one. Yeah. But some of the other ones are a little bit easier. So let's hit apply. How are we doing out there?
We're doing great. There are a few questions I'm going to save for when you're ready.
I'm probably ready because I could go through more images. I'd like to keep going through images, so I'll do a couple different ones. We can do a color one. And
so there was a question earlier that came out as to whether, and this is more of a business question, not, well, it's editing and business, but the question is, do you edit your photos prior to you showing the client, or do you have a consultation with them and then edit?
Okay, so I edit everything before my client sees. I probably shoot, I'm going to guess, around 500 images, give or take. I probably overshoot just a touch, but that's the way it is with kids and babies. You get a split second, and that's pretty much it before the shot is gone. I will edit those down anywhere from 40 to 80 images, and those are the images that my client will see. I will do some effects, and I will finish some of the images, certainly my favorites, which are the same ones that I'd put on a blog sneak peek, or any of the ones that I really want my clients to have. I will spend a little bit of time working on them. If you spend too much time editing, you're obviously not making money, so you need to be very careful on how many hours in post-production that you're doing. And I can't sit there and retouch 60 images, nor is my client going to order 60 images. Anything that they do order, if it isn't finished or it's not absolutely perfect, I will do the final touches on it before I send it to print. But I do want to have like a few of my favorite images with a little bit of effects on them. Did I walk around on that one? That was right.
No, that's good.
I don't like to give too many to my clients, too many images. I think even 40 to 80 can be quite a bit, but it depends on the session, depends on what the outcome is planned. If they're doing an album, I do want extra images in there so that I can make sure that I have detail shots and the shots that would go in the backgrounds or anything to fill the gaps on that.
I actually like Cynthia's question, and Cynthia, I'm gonna take some creative liberty and paraphrase your question, because Cynthia's question was on Monty, would you have used Perfect Portrait? But my question is, for babies and for little kids, is Perfect Portrait something that you use often versus, say, a senior who might have, more problem skin?
So I already got flack from Dan last night about not using Perfect Portrait during the webinar today, but I thought it was a little bit overreaching too much, so that's why I'm not showing it. But I do use Perfect Portrait. I haven't used it as much as I've used this program, so that's partly why I didn't want to include that.
Sure.
Babies are a lot, kids are a lot easier. Their skin is pretty perfect. Babies, sometimes you do have a little bit more trouble. Baby acne can happen, redness in their skin, little rashy, so it can help with stuff like that. but I think that needs to be saved for a different webinar.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I think it's more than just something we should pop out right now, I think.
Absolutely.
But I don't do a lot of it. So, I mean, to be honest, I don't know if I did it on any of these. I mean, we could flip through a few of these. I can do a little bit in Photoshop if necessary. But babies have pretty pure, I mean, and kids pure, I mean, there's your original image there. I mean, this was natural light. This was shot outside. All I did was add a little bit of a vintage kick to it, and I was done. So there's nothing done on his skin. I mean, you can see it's pretty pure. Same thing with this one. There's your before, and there's your after.
David wanted to know, and I know the answer, but it's a good question to ask in terms of your printing. And this can open up a can, but I'm not going to let it. But just who does your printing? Who do you kind of fall back on?
Anything that's small, we send to White House Custom Color. And anything that's large, any wall portraits, any canvas, we print in-house. We actually have a printer, a pretty large printer, and my husband takes care of that part. We do all the mounting and everything of canvases in-house. But currently we use White House.
I love every time I go. I've gone to Whitney and Dan's place here in Portland a number of times, and it's just awesome. I love going to the houses owned by creatives because it's so much fun. You know, as a creative, you can tell a house that's been designed by a creative, and you walk upstairs into Whitney's kind of office area, and there's a huge printer there, and Dan, does his canvas printing, and it's pretty cool. So.
I do have my studio. That's where I shoot, and that's where I meet all my clients.
Right.
But my office is at home, so I do have my laptop. I do have our huge printer. I have a huge. It's our bonus room, I guess, is my office at home, which is pretty fabulous. It does look like a creative person lives there, I guess.
Sure.
There's stuff everywhere. Looks like a girl's office. It's purple,
It's awesome. It's awesome. You have your pin-up stuff.
Yeah, I have stuff everywhere. I have to be surrounded by creativity when I'm doing my editing and when I'm doing design work. I have stuff everywhere. I have books. I have things that I look through and things that I look for inspiration.
I'm texting while you're presenting.
Yeah, I know, and I'm reading my questions over his shoulder. So I'm going to open this image while I'm looking at questions. But
well, there's a good question where, Marsha asks a question and Chris asks a good question while this is launching. The first was Chris's. In terms of baby props, I love the props you use in your images. I think the props are as important, effective use of them by a photographer is as important as taking a good image. Mm-hmm. And you have some awesome props. So what do you do?
They're so simple, though. I mean, you're looking at it here. That's some old bench that I found at some antique store.
So do you go antiquing a lot?
I do. I have somebody that's done it for me. That's a suitcase that was at an antique store. This is an old door that we found. This wood floor is actually a mouse pad.
It's what?
It's like a mouse pad.
Oh, it's like that artificial.
Yeah, and if I knew the company, if you actually want to know, you can send me an email. I'll ask my husband because he purchased it for me, but it feels like a mouse pad.
Yes.
And when Dan brought it home for me to use, I was really irritated because I thought it was the ugliest thing I've ever seen. But in photos, you can't tell. It looks like a wooden floor.
I would never. And we see this whenever we go to the trade shows, especially like WPPI and imaging, not so much Photoshop world, but I see these vendors selling this stuff, and you walk up to it, and it feels like a mouse pad, but it looks exactly, because no one cares what it feels like. No, I don't need to feel that wood, but it looks exactly the same.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's another box. I'm really careful with my props. It's very simple for me. I do like furniture. You see the couch. I mean, the couch has been used multiple times here. I actually just got this couch at Cost Plus. So I mean, just from random couch, but I was in love with the back. Is there one that actually shows the back?
But I like the way it kind of curves the back on this. Yeah, right there on the 15.
These little buttons all have little patterns, and they're all funky patterns, and that's what sold it for me. And it was at Cost Plus. We were just in there looking for stuff, and hey, I want this, and it's dainty and very cute.
And the legs are cool.
Very simple props. I don't like overdone babies. I mean, everything is pretty simple. Blankets. I do have clients bring this. These guys brought this hat. I make hats, so I have a ton of hats in my studio. I have blankets. I have a whole shelf of different textures and materials that I can use. But the more somebody brings, the more it's theirs. I mean, this is their blanket. It's my basket, but it's their blanket. So it's kind of sweet to have them be able to use that.
Was that the same? The floor, was that the same wooden? Mm-hmm. You see, I mean, everyone just kind of pay attention here. So if you can go from this image, look at the floor here, and then go to that other one.
That's the original.
No, I know, but go to the one that you showed. That one. And so the same floor, you unless you kind of were paying attention, it was used in 2 totally different shots. You know, just because of your stylization, the treatment you gave the image. And so you have this versatility over here that I think is fantastic.
I know a couple people asked. I don't remember the company. I'm really sorry. I haven't been able to go to shows because I have my baby now, but Dan had gotten them for me. So if you pop me an email or pop Brian an email, I'll ask him when we're done here, and I will let you know where they're from.
I'll shoot
I
Dan
feel
a
really
text
bad.
message right now.
He's in a meeting.
Yes.
But I'll get you that information because
Yep.
I can't remember. We have more than one. That's just one that I like. They have other backgrounds and stuff too that you can use. That I haven't been able to show. Okay, let's go back into Perfect Effects while I'm here. I know that there's probably more questions, but I wanted to show this other one. We talked about the vignettes a little bit, the grunge vignette. So I usually use the light one, but I really like the dark one. And here's the grunge vignette dark. And that's
Awesome.
that's another favorite of mine. And it's a simple wall. This is an outdoor shot. It was the side of a building is all it was. And then the same thing on this, I would go ahead and mask back in that face. You can kind of see that it darkened his face up a little bit, and I'm not too thrilled. So changing the brush size is the brackets, the same like you would do it in Photoshop. I might be assuming that you guys know how to use Photoshop, but if not, it's just your brackets. What do you call it? Brackets?
Yep. And if you go to the help menu, Whitney, for a second while you're doing that.
Yep, he's all back in.
Help and then show keyboard shortcuts. So if anyone wants to know all the keyboard shortcuts, right there actually, if you kind of put it, is the brush size that Whitney was referring to. There are the brackets. So.
And most of these are going to be the same as Photoshop. So I literally spent an afternoon playing on this without anybody showing me, and I was able to pick it up pretty quick. I am a little tech savvy, so I'm sure that probably helps me. And being married to Dan, has me well schooled. But it was so easy to use because it was similar feature to Photoshop. So, and you can go back if you make a mistake. You can delete something. You can mess with the blending modes. I mean, you could literally spend all day playing in here doing different things. And that's back to just suggesting taking the time to do that. Take the time, make a list, put your favorite effects in there, go through it with an image and just look at the different things. I mean, there's a ton of textures in here that you could probably use. I like the cool concrete. It's actually a pretty cool one. That would be a great one for the shot too.
See, my favorite is, and I use it all the time, is rice paper light, all the way to the right there.
I don't even think I've used that one.
Oh man, it's the best.
See,
but it has a frame. So if you go to it, watch.
They're alphabetical too, by the way.
So there's rice paper light, and if you apply it, there's a frame that embeds with it that you have to scale out. So increase that scale slider a bit until you don't see the dark frame. But I love this, and then try changing the blending mode to dark, right there, to darker, and then drop the strength. Yeah. Oh, that looks awesome.
You're messing up my photo.
I'm making it better.
I don't know about that. Back to style. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think mine was better.
And while we're at it, though, Dan texted me back. So I put in the chat message, everyone, in the chat window. Dan said it's called Backdrop Outlet. So Google it, and you should be able to find it.
So again, as you can just see what Brian's putting his 2 cents worth in here. I mean, there's a bunch in here, but it's back to the style again. So you need to be able to stick to your style and be able to show that what represents you. I mean, I would hope that you guys could look at these images that I had here. This is just a small selection of some recent shoots. Literally. I mean, I've shot them all within the last couple months. And you can kind of, I hope, see a bit of a style here. You can kind of see similar treatments to the images and hopefully tell that I'm the photographer in them. You know, they're very simple. Doesn't mean you can't break the rules, doesn't mean you can't do something else, but I do try to stick to who I am so that my clients get what they're hoping for when they come in. This is another one that I really like, actually. Let's do this one really quick. This is a little, we need the original. I keep trying to pull up the other one. A little Colin. And this has only got 2.
Oh, try going back into Perfect Effects because you clicked out of it.
What did I break it?
You didn't break it. You just kind of, here, close that out, and now take that into Effects.
I like to break things. They use me as their guinea pig to break the product before you release it.
I love when things break on a webinar.
So I'm seeing 100 questions. Is there anything on there that's of importance?
Well, and it was no more of it we've covered already. Chris asked a good question earlier, and again, it's kind of subjective. But if for someone who's starting out, what would you recommend for props? What would be a good budget? Just like because you've done this, you've spent the money on it, but like just for a good starter kit of a few things, what would you say to budget?
For what? For babies?
Props, yeah, for babies.
I would keep it as simple as you possibly can. I mean, you can use a couch if you have one. You can use, I mean, if you have a studio, if you're going in home, that's even easier for me, actually. If I go into somebody's home, especially with a newborn, I go into their nursery. I look around for things that I can use in their house, furniture, tables, floor, blankets. I mean, you don't need anything technically.
So you'll do shoots in their house, or
I do.
Okay.
Sometimes on the newborn. I don't like to do it much older than newborn. If they're any older, I prefer that they come to the studio where I have a little bit more control. But if it's a brand new baby and they want me to come to their home, wonderful. Use natural light. I'll find a big window. I will use the nursery if they have a beautiful setup nursery. I wing it. I bring a light disc and just use what I have. And I think that's part of my creative fun, too. Sometimes the studio can scare me. I've been doing this how many years? And I'm like, oh, what do I do? Because you have to create it when you're in the studio. When you go into somebody's home, you get to react to it. And this is something even Dan's always teased me about that I'm pretty good at, is making something out of nothing. I mean, if this is what I have to work with, I will make it work. But when I have too many things to pick from, I don't know where to start. And so even driving into the studio to have a baby session, I have to kind of in my head go through a few different backgrounds, go through a few different ideas so I have somewhere to start because there's too many things that I could do.
Got it. Before you then do hear, actually a bunch of people just asked the same question. People asking what a light disc is. Did you say light disc?
I did.
What's a light disc?
You don't know what a light disc is?
No.
Really?
No. Well, are you talking about like a reflector?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a light? I'm like, what do you mean? I don't know. It's a light disc.
I've only called
it's a big, huge thing.
Yeah, a reflector, like a last light or.
It's just it's a giant reflector.
Yeah.
It has a gold side and a silver side,
Yep.
or you can get a white one.
Yep.
I use that more than I use anything else. I don't use flash. Anybody that's asking me, I protest flash. Why? Because I think it's obnoxious, but it doesn't mean that it can't work. I mean, if that's what works for you. Again, I'm better at reacting to a situation than controlling the situation. If you brought my husband into the same situation, he would set up lights. He would use a flash. He would do it. That's the way he knows how to control a situation.
Right.
Where I react to my environment and my client. You know, if I'm shooting a baby, they don't need this whole expansive setup. I mean, they need a big fat window, and I'm going to put them right in front of it and try to keep it as simple as possible. It doesn't always work. I mean, if you go into somebody's house that's super dark, then you do have to do something else. But again, I'm better at figuring out what I have to use.
Absolutely. Yeah, Nicole's the same way. I know with her food, she will avoid using lights as often as possible. She wants natural, and then she'll use foam core boards.
Yeah, same thing. Light disc.
Exactly, to kind of reflect the light. Now, there were a few questions also here, unless you want to do them afterwards. They're good questions.
No, it's back to the lighting, though, just so you know. Like, this one was done in the studio. This is a giant softbox on the left, and I think I have a light disc on the other side. So, I mean, this was controlled lighting situation. It's what I had to work with. It's winter and freezing here, so there's no shooting outdoors. In my studio, I have a giant roll-up door that faces north light. So during the warmer days in the summer, I will pull that up and use a natural light coming in from the roll-up door. It's like a big storage unit door. It's awesome. But there are times when I do have to use lighting. So I can do it. It's just if I don't have to, I'd like to not.
Sure. Yeah, I agree 100%. I try to avoid, well, I mean, I mostly do HDR, but I don't use lights. I don't shoot anything that needs it.
Right.
But now that you're going to be working on effects, when you present to a client, do they ever, and this was a question, and I liked it. Let's say you you stylize this, and the client asks, like, oh, that's a bit too much. Do you go back ever?
No, I've never had anybody say that to me. They get what they get when they see it. So it's already done. I've already done my effects to it. It's already finished when they come in for their sales session. They don't get to say, oh, can you take those effects off? Or this is another one, and you guys might hate me for this, but I shoot in black and white. And that comes back to the film days. And I will take those photos in black and white because that's how I see. And I know I want that image in black and white. And that saves me time in post-production. And I've never been in post-production and said, I wish that was in color. I've never said that. And so to my client, I tell them the same thing. I shot it in black and white. If you want the color one, there's 5 more images to pick from. There's a color one and there's black and white ones. So it depends. You go back to style too, where I said you need to show what you want to sell. So the samples that are on my walls, the things that I'm showing my clients, that's what I want them to have. Mm-hmm. It may not be the perfect, smiling, looking at the camera shot. That's not what I showcase. I showcase the real moments. I showcase the maybe not so happy face, maybe the innocent little face. I mean, that's not a smiling face, and the client has a big one of that.
Yeah.
The sleeping baby, the not looking at the camera. I mean, those are the things that I'm going to show, and those are the things that sell. My client owns this one. Somebody has a large one of this one hanging on their wall. I mean, you can even see all of the baby. So if a client's coming for that perfect smiling, looking at the camera shot, they're probably not coming to me for that. They're coming for these little bit different shots that they can get.
Yeah. And I can answer. Leanne's asking a question. Do you give the originals with the effects? And I can tell. I know you don't give images.
No, I don't give anything. Actually, we've had this conversation before. That's just not the studio model that I want to represent. I sell a DVD slideshow from Animoto to my clients for $100 if they want to buy that. That will have all of the edited images on it that they saw, and it's the same images they see when they come in for their sales session. But I don't sell any digital files, and that just comes back to finished product and really caring about what my work looks like.
Absolutely.
I don't want them taking it to Walmart or Costco and printing it. I want them to buy that album or that wall portrait, and they come in for their pre-consultation, so they know that that's what they're getting when they come to me. And if it's not what they want, there's a million people that will give them the negatives and just sell them the disc, and that's fine too. It's just not the style and the artist that I want to be.
Yeah, and you just show them the edited images. You won't. Do you go through the originals?
Nope, I don't do any originals. It's only the edited, and you can tell because I actually rename them. So like this says Case and 14 on the number up here. That was his 14th image. So the originals I go through. I edit all the originals. I have a backup disc of the originals. Don't fret before I touch any of them. I do save over the originals as I want them. So here's my original, and Bryn 57 is finished. That's the finished image, and it's not cropped or anything. So I still crop it when I send it to the lab, but I do save over the originals.
Yeah, I think it would be fun to have a webinar in second quarter, maybe going through your workflow. That could be a fun one.
That would be a good one, actually.
That would be a good one, yeah.
And I don't know, my workflow is necessarily perfect, but it works for me. And
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You'll find, because I've done workflow webinars here several times, you always get someone who will disagree with you or has a better way, and that's fine. Everyone has their own. But the majority of people are, including myself, I love learning people's workflows because you always, it's like little modules, little widgets. Like you do something like, oh man, I can co-opt that into mine. So we'll do that.
And that goes back to, that's why I protest changing my workflows, because once you have it and you're whipping through it, it's making one little change irritates me. But sometimes it's for the better, and sometimes you just have to do it.
Hey, you've got your business, you're successful, thankfully, and you're doing something right, though. And so you stick with what you know, and with the business side of things, maybe with the photography you evolve in a certain way, one way or the other, but the business side is pretty static. Yeah.
But at the same time, you still have to do the business that works for you. I mean, everybody offers something a little different. Everybody charges different prices. Everybody has different products that they offer. I mean, we're all trying to stand out in our own way as best as we can.
Sure.
So
it's an interesting time where it's not anymore, and it's not enough anymore to stand apart just with your images. You have to stand apart with your business sense, with your product, your marketing,
and yourself.
Yeah, you have to, and it's a crazy time to be a photographer. So.
I'm going to agree with that. It is, and it's hard even for me to stand out. I mean, I lost a job the other day because somebody offered to do their newborn pics for free. The client was honest, and they let me know, and thanks for letting me know, and I'll be here down the road if you want me. And that client is actually coming in now to do their 6-month shoot, so they were disappointed in their newborn shoot, and that's the way it is. I mean, I just be the best person that I can, thank them for coming in, I'm here if they want me, and they're coming back.
Yeah.
So
I actually like Rosemary's question, even though she's a bit impatient with us getting to it. In terms
Sorry, lots of questions.
Yeah, there are a lot of questions. When you work on an image, do you ever work on multiple copies of it, or do you just typically you do a treatment and then that's the one you do?
I do a treatment and I'm done, and you got to commit. I mean, that's the one thing I've learned. You cannot spend 16 hours editing a job or you're not making any money. I mean, I try to edit my jobs within an hour to 2 hours if I can. Mm-hmm. And granted, when you have 500 images, that can be really hard to do. It's initial edits. I whip through them and I star my images in Lightroom and I pick the favorites and get rid of the bad ones and I just commit. And the more you sit there and go, oh, I don't know which one, oh, I don't know, it takes forever.
Sure.
I grab the good ones and I move on with it. And you just got to do it. And when the client says, oh, is there this or is there that? No, this is what you have to pick from. So I don't usually have a problem with that. Very, very rarely does anybody say, what's happened to that image? You know, because there's too many to pick from already. I mean, if they're getting 40 to 80 images, they're only going to order 6, or if they get an album, they're still only going to get like 40, if that. They're going to get 20 to 30 probably. So they don't need that many images. And that's another way I can tell people to, why I don't sell negatives. What are you going to do with them?
Right.
What people don't, they're not going to do anything with them.
Right.
They just want them,
Yeah, the emerging photographer, I think, is trying to be this one-stop shop of providing everything when really, the smart photographer, forget about the good photographer. You have to be a good photographer no matter what if you want to be successful. But the smart photographer knows what they need to do to make their client happy without breaking their own back.
Well, go back to don't let your client change who you are as an artist.
Right.
You are who you are. You offer a certain thing. I think you need that pre-consultation. If you're not having that pre-consultation with your clients, then I can't help you. But having that pre-consultation for them to come in. And to me, my client is investing in me as much as I'm investing in them. So if they can't come in for that pre-consultation, they're probably not my client because they're coming in to spend a chunk of money. I mean, if they're coming in to spend $500 or more on a newborn session, they need to come in and know what they're investing in and know who I am and know that I'm going to take care of them and know what, my finished work looks like. And I have finished albums that I show them that they go through as well as the stuff that they see on the walls.
Yeah. Well, I like Felix's question, and then we're going to take off. You
can go through a couple more probably.
Okay. If you're cool.
I'm okay. If you guys hang in there, I'm not going to demo, but I'll answer a couple more questions.
Felix's question was, I like it. Do you ever show an image that hasn't been edited?
Yes, because I can't edit 80 images.
Mm-hmm.
So they may not all be edited, but for an example, you can look at these 2 images, and really, there's nothing wrong with this one. I just wanted to jazz it up a little bit so I have the right side. So there was probably some other images in the same series that looked just simple like this and didn't have the little vintage red tint to it. No big deal. If a client, say, ordered images that were similar and wanted them in a folio, I would probably tell them that I will make the one that's not quite finished and finish it to match it. So I still want my finished product to look good. If I think something needs to be done to something that didn't get done before, I will make sure my client knows I'm going to finish it. And nobody ever argues. Okay, whatever, you take care of it. You're the artist. That's my job, to finish them and make them look good. So I will do that, but I cannot make 80 images. I mean, same thing with this one. These are almost the same. There's nothing wrong with the first one. It's just that I wanted a little bit more to it.
Yep.
So I just do the little bit more to my favorites, and then I can go back through and do something if I need to in the after.
Cool. We'll do one more series of questions, and then both Michael and Nancy asked about, and we'll do that. We'll finish off at the end with you kind of going through some of your favorite effects and perfect effects, which actually
we have a bunch of good ones.
Yeah, Whitney actually has a list here, which is very nice. But Melissa asked, Melissa asked if the slideshow, that's an a la carte thing, right? Or is that part of the package?
The Animoto slideshow is just an a la carte thing that I offer. I charge $99 for it. It's just the slideshow. I actually show them the slideshow when they come in to view their images. That's how I start my sales session. So I've already made it. It takes me 5 minutes to make, if that. I mean, you just pop it in the images and be done with it. And that's what they see. So now if they purchased it, it's free $99 as far as I'm concerned. I popped it in a disc or popped it in a on a CD and in a you know what I'm trying to say.
The case?
The case, thank
Yeah.
you. And it's done. So it cost me, what, $3 probably?
Yeah.
But the time's already been put into it. And most people, when they come in and see that slideshow, want it. I mean, as soon as they've seen it, they want it. And then that's my trade for, well, you can't have all of them, but they're in a beautiful slideshow, and that's what you guys can watch. And you can't do anything with the slideshow. You can't download it. You can't get images off. It's Animoto. So it does a great job of taking care of that.
Can you also talk about photo books? Like what size do you typically do and who do you print with?
So that was more my last webinar. If you guys did not listen to that one and you want to go back, you can. I talk a lot about albums, but for my baby books, I do 8x8 albums, and they're 24 pages. I print them through White House, and then I send them to Renaissance, the book, to be mounted into the albums. And that was a whole webinar. So
Yeah,
there's more there.
The webinar is already in our university, so you'll be able to check that out. We go into more detail about that. And then last question in the effects. Do you add music to those slideshows?
Animoto does, yes.
Okay, so through Animoto.
Through Animoto, they have non-copyrighted or whatever music. I use the music that they offer. I do not upload music that is stealing.
Yep. All right, so can you just go through, and I'll try to type these out here while you go through them, but can you just go through some of your favorite effects?
Yeah, I'm going to open an image just so that we can see them while we kind of go through them.
Ah,
I
that's
have them
even better.
all by categories. I did it again. I opened it, and then I opened another image, so hold on. I don't have any presets available for sale yet in the marketplace, but we are talking about doing that. So if anybody is interested in any presets, let me know. I was hoping I would have it. Dan was bugging me about getting some together, but I will tell you the ones that I love, and that will hopefully make things a little easier for you guys. So in the black and white category, I like and they're all alphabetical, so you guys can just flip right through them. Portrait Dark and Light are good black and white ones. So there's Portrait Dark, and I'll let you guys see them really quick. And Portrait Light, and these are the ones I use with my kids and babies, so that's why I'm showing you. It doesn't mean they won't work for other things. Again, there's tons of effects in here that I've used for seniors, and I had a model session that I used, a bunch of the funky movie looks. So take time and look through them if you're doing other things other than babies and kids. Roadie, I like Roadie. It's a little bit obnoxious, but if you pull it back a little bit, it is kind of a fun one. It's a little more detailed. I have used this on some funkier ones that I've done of like little boys. Mm-hmm. Snappy Warm is a nice warm tone. I tend to lean more towards warm tone black and whites rather than true black and whites. So the Snappy Warm's a great one, and then I also really like the Warm Gray, which is the one that I used on the baby on the couch, which this is the couch again, but it's a little bit too warm. I would still probably pull that opacity down just a little bit, but that is a favorite. Let's skip to detail. So in the detail, I will use the Portrait Sharpener, and that's one for, I'll do the eyes too, masking in and out the eyes if you want, and then I do like the Texture Booster.
Yeah, Texture Booster is awesome.
And that can be a fun one too, especially for little kids. This can be a fun one. If it's an outdoor shoot, little kids, you can add that one on there. And then textures, there's a million textures, so you could probably go through these and pick out a bunch. I do like the brocade corners. And the only reason I had this one on here, and you're probably not going to be able to see it on here, is if you do you can barely see it up in the corner. If you do a studio session and you have just a blank wall or the studio, let me go back to my Lightroom catalog. I actually have this on an image. It was a boring image, and it needed a little something more, and you can see the little brocade pattern just barely on the side. It just gave it a little bit of pop.
It's awesome.
Not the best image to show, but I do like that one. And then in vignettes, are you typing these in?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
No, because they're being recorded.
Oh, okay, good.
I thought originally you were just going to speak them out, but this is even better.
Is that okay?
This is much, much better.
The grunge vignette, light and dark, we already went through those. Love both of them, use them often. Usually I use the light one over the dark, but every once in a while the dark one does fit. Love the light one, the softness that it gives. You may need to mask that out of the child's face. And then I do like the soft edges. I've used that quite a bit. If you want to soften it up a little bit around the edges. And I think I clicked on it, but I don't want to double click on it. Hold on, let's try that one more time. There it goes. You can kind of see a little bit of softness on the side, and then subtle vignette.
Yeah, subtle vignette is also another awesome one.
It's very simple. Not, is it not working? I don't want to click too fast because then it doesn't like me. There it goes.
One of the nice things about it is if you hit add over here and then click it again, it kind of compounds on top of itself. So sometimes when I just want to add a little bit more weight to the center, if you click on it, go back to that middle empty layer, this one right there, and then add subtle vignette again. It just kind of compounds on it, which is really nice. Oops. Why isn't it clicking?
Because if you go too fast, it doesn't like us.
I see.
So it's my laptop. Nice to my laptop.
So you see kind of how it adds a little bit more. So it really depends on...
Okay, and then my favorite category of this whole thing, which was the whole start of all of this, is the vintage category. And I actually like a ton in the vintage category. Dirty Bird is one of them. And there's ones with frames. I don't use the frames because this is my workflow and I'm finished with them, and that's what I crop to an 8x10 or whatever they're buying. So I don't use the frames, but they do have frames if you want those as well. So love the Dirty Bird, not so much for babies necessarily, unless it's a funky little background that you have. I would do that more for kids. And then Honky Tonk.
Yeah, that's a cool kind of muted one.
Mm-hmm. A little muted, kind of vintage. Doesn't necessarily work that great with this image, but fun one to use. Instaloma. I do like this one. Little vintage look as well. Katie.
Where does cropping fall into your workflow? Is that
until I send it to the printer.
That's when.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't crop anything before that. Lomo Soft, almost there. Lomo.
I like Lomo Soft. It softens the corners a little bit in a really nice way. You see that? Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, I like
on
that
his
one.
shirt on the lower right, you can kind of see how it softens a bit. I really dig that.
I have two that are my absolute favorites, and my first one is going to be Robin. Love this one, and I do use this a lot for my babies.
Yeah.
That's one of my absolute favorites, Robin. And then my second absolute favorite in this one is going to be the vintage red yellow, which just has that little bit of tint to it as well that I tend to prefer. And then vintage cool is great. Little boys, sometimes in the studio, in little baskets, if I want to have a little blue tint to it. And then I must have added one at the end. I'm going to go back to nicely toasted.
Oh, yeah. It gives a little light leak.
This one's a little bit funkier. It does take the right image for it, but it's still a cool filter to add.
Yep. And you bring up a good point. It's really important to kind of find the image. This actually kind of works in a way.
Maybe if we pulled it back a little bit.
If you pulled it back and you masked it out, kind of maybe down the strip over here, that could, yeah. But actually use the bug. Use this guy right there. I'll show you. If we do this, and then we click in, and then we kind of go like this. I'll show you.
Okay, I think your presenter is now learning something. I've never touched this part of it.
I love it. You kind of, so what it's doing is it's going to mask right down this angle here, and then we'll drop the intensity of it, like the opacity, so it's not a full mask. It's just kind of like a half mask here. The opacity, let's just.
Cool.
Yeah. So kind of, you see, kind of masks out a strip down.
So like I said, nobody ever showed me how to use this. This is awesome.
Yep. I like taking creative license with your images.
Yeah, you notice how Brian keeps messing up my images. Just kidding. No, that doesn't look bad at all. But that's the last one, actually. That is the long list of my favorites. There is more, but those are the ones that I tend to use for my babies and kids. And I have a list, and I have presets saved at home, so it does make my post-production a little bit faster.